guys, Ash here, Racial Legends. Welcome to the video. Sending some love, some positive vibes your way, especially if you need them out there today. Today is the second installment of the deep dive, the really long, hard look with the proverbial magnifying glass at a specific faction inside the game, talking about every champion, not maybe in depth on every champion, but certainly who's worth investing in, who's not worth investing in, what are some popular builds, some areas, champions that are kind of unsung heroes, sleepers that you ought to know about. We want to tackle all of that and more in this series. We did Bannerlords last time. We're going to do High Elves today, and it's a great time to shout out my download link, because you get Eleanor, who's the first legendary that we'll talk about in today's video. She's really good, especially on new accounts, because she has an irresistible HP burn on her A1 2-turn duration that is so good, as well as being a poison and poison combustor. So Eleanor and Ugo and Tagore, this could be used on second accounts. What I do is, what I did, I should say, is I started a brand new Raid Shadow Legends account that I just kind of keep dormant, right? I used a download link, excuse me. I got Eleanor, I got Tagore, and I got Ugo, right? So Ugo, Tagore, Eleanor. It staggers it on levels. I think you get Eleanor right away, then after level 10 and 15, you get Ugo and Tagore. But what I do is I go on that account. I don't even know why I do this. I just think it's going to be useful someday. And I collect them. I collect the download link champions, and then I use the promo code Desert Queen, right? That's Desert Queen, to get Tawana Rock, right? Only new accounts going to say. So that's a Void Legendary. And then we have a Champion Chase right now, right? Not a great champion, but still a free Legendary. So then you'll be rocking like 3 Legendaries on a brand new account. And then you can just log in every time there's a Champion Chase and just collect those champions. I started doing that way back when they reintroduced Ninja. So I have like 10 legendaries, and I barely play the account. Anyway, you guys can do that. It's not an affiliate or anything like that, but it is a download link that you guys can use. Yeah, pretty good, solid rewards there. All right, High Elves. Star Sage Galath here, man. I mean, what do I have to say about Star Sage? What can you say about Star Sage Galath here? For my money, I think he's the best champion in all of Raid Shadow Legends, okay? I'm lucky enough to have him. He's really insane. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on mythicals, as I said in the previous installment of this series, but he really does do it all. He has turn meter fill on his base form A1 on an AoE. He has turn meter depletion on his A1 on his alternate form, kind of the same skill in reverse or inverse. On his A2, he has a full cleanse, he has block debuffs, he has heals based on his max HP, and he has block debuffs. Basically the best cleanse in the game. Okay, because you have the cleanse, you have the heal, his max HP, scales incredibly well, and the block debuffs, and the turn meter fill. I mean, come on. Best cleanse, turn meter fill, whatever. Not best turn meter fill, but best cleanse. All right, an amazing revive on a 4-turn cooldown, AoE with perfect veils, okay? Also, he has the prevent his death, right? Keeps him alive with 1 HP when receiving fatal damage. Then he equalizes his HP to the average HP of the entire team. He has resistance, right? Less damage for each resistance he has. On his alternate form, he has the same sort of thing going on. Increases accuracy based on 75% of his resistance when placing debuffs. So we can just build him with very high resistance. Insane. He becomes one of the best lockout champions. Arguably the best lockout stun champion on his alternate form, right? He has buff removal, block active skills, 3-turn cooldown, won't trigger counterattacks. He has an increased accuracy on all allies, which also helps alleviate the accuracy necessity for this champion, along with his resistance. He brings a decreased resistance and a stun on all enemies as well. Insane. Absolutely insane. Whether you need a cleanser, a healer, a support, a turn meter filler, a stun champion, a control champion, a buff remover, he's got it all. He's fastest champion in the game, 115, tied with like 10 others, but whatever. Insane S tier. Eleanor. We talked a little bit about her. She's got the irresistible burn. So good to have that. This is one of the best burns out there in the game. It's single target, but it's guaranteed on that A1, okay? And then she has the 2 poisons on an AoE, and then she has the instant activation. Eleanor is the queen of kind of speed runs with poison teams, right? Kind of like a Xavia, kind of like a Theodore, kind of in that class of champion. So you can pair her with champions that dish out a lot of poisons, like a Taurus. He's the best epic AoE poisoner out there, 4 poisons on all enemies. Or a champion like Tomb Lord or Richthof the Bold. There's a billion of them out there, right? A Calvalax, and she'll just instantly activate those poisons, doing insane damage to both bosses, but especially evaporating waves. Niche champion, but very good. Pixelil. Pixelil. People hated Pixelil. And honestly, she's not as bad as she used to be. Frankly, people still hate Pixelil, but it's kind of a reputation-based thing. She's not an insanely good champion, but she's a solid support champion now, especially if you're in progression mode on your account. She has a perfect Veil on an ally with lowest HP, which is very good for an A1. What's not very good is all these frickin' books. Awful. All for damage. That's nasty. A2, increase defense, continuous heal on all allies, then attacks all enemies under freeze. Place a weaken on all enemies under freeze. This is on a 3-turn cooldown. Not a bad ability. Some heals, increase defense, and of course she does have the freeze on her A3. Again, books are a huge issue with Pixelil. She even has them on her passive. But an AoE freeze at 100%. They reworked this like 2 or 3 times to get it to where it is. AoE freeze is solid, right? And then she's immune to freeze herself, which is nice in certain areas of the game, obviously. Fills his champion's turn meter by 25% every time an ally receives a freeze, okay? At the end of each enemy or ally turn, removes all freeze debuffs from all allies. This is on a 2-turn cooldown when booked. The immunity and the turn meter fill, that's always active, no cooldown. Really interesting champion. She's got control, and she's got some heals and support. Again, I see her as more of a progression or a faction war champion. The faction war champions can be hard to find. She's really good for faction wars hard because she can help support your team, and she can also, you can use her on torment waves and stuff like that, and of course, she can CC and help you with those freeze conditions. Alexander the Sharpshooter is based on Simple. He's a Navi, I don't even know how to, he's a dude. He was a free login champion, or excuse me, just a free loyalty champion back in the day. I think it was the 2nd or 3rd champion ever added to the game around the Ninja time and Deliana, somewhere in that rotation. He's not good, unfortunately. I will say this. Born to Win is a single target attack that removes all buffs from the target. Not too bad-ish. Removes all buffs, okay? And then an AoE decreased defense. Weaken, but it's conditional on Orcs and Ogrins. He deals some decent damage with Born to Win, and he has an AoE decreased defense. He's a glorified, like, epic, maybe rare, you know? It's sad to see. Simple deserves better. Alexander the Sharpshooter, I cannot recommend, especially in today's day and age in the game. I can't recommend anybody build him. Even if you need an AoE decreased defense champion, they're a dime a dozen nowadays in the game, right? So I guess if you're really struggling in High Elves to find a decreased defense champion, or you have like a Fina, you're trying to pull off like some incredible all High Elf team, I think that's the only way I would ever recommend investing in that champion, unfortunately. Really one of the worst legendaries, because he's very epic-like, or rare-like almost, you know? Strategos Islin. I think I said his name right. Sorry. Stratego is a great game, though. Great board game. 2-time hitter with a provoke on his A1. When counterattacking, that goes up to a 65% chance when booked on the A1. A solid A1 provoke. And of course, surprise, surprise, he has counterattack on himself on his A3. We'll get to that in a moment. But he has an AoE before attacking, 100% chance when booked of decreasing the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn. That's polymorph proof as well. You don't really see him in the arena, though. He does bring a decreased speed as well on that AoE. So it's not a bad ability, right? Especially for Hydra kind of progression. He's not really an end-game Hydra guy, but pretty good ability here. Decreased the duration and the decreased speed all on a 3-turn cooldown. Now, ally protection on a 4-turn cooldown on all allies, and an increased defense on all allies. Again, the bummer is it's a 4-turn cooldown. I want that on a 3-turn cooldown nowadays. However, he does have a counterattack on this champion with a shield on this champion as well. It's a pretty good shield based on his defense. It's actually a really good shield, but it's only him. Whenever he's attacked, he heals himself as well. Heals all other allies under ally protection placed by this champion by 30% of this skill's initial heal. So some kind of mediocre to light healing going on here on the Protect the Troops. So what is Strategos Islin here? Excuse me. Well, he's an all-right ally protector, is what he is, with a very useful A2. It's an interesting blend. You don't really see AoE decreased speed with buff removal with ally protection that often increased defense. It's kind of an interesting combination with provoke as well with the counterattack and stuff. That being said, he's kind of a cool champion. Arena is his highest rating. You just don't really see him in Arena. I think his best use case is going to be Faction Wars and Hydra Clan Boss. I think Hydra would be his best, area. Fina, Blade of Avaria. There's some really good high elves, but I think she's this is the Unity champion, so she ought to be the best, but I think she's probably the best. I think she's the most sought after here out of any legendary, and she's so hard to get. She was my first Unity and one of my only Unities on the account, and let me just tell you, specifically in Hydra, she's on my best team. She's that good. She doesn't even need all high elves on her team to be as effective as she needs to be, right? Does that make sense? She's insanely good in Faction Wars, obviously. High elves, Faction Wars, hard is so hard. Not if you have Fina, right? She really does make it so much easier. You can say that again about most faction lords or Unity lords. 113 speed, she's very fast. She brings speed on her aura as well as crit rate to high elves. On her A1, she increases the cooldown of a random skill on the target by 2 turns. When counterattacking with this skill, she'll team up with a random ally. So she has like a little mini ally attack on her A1. Really cool. On her A2, block debuffs, block damage, counterattack on one ally for 2 turns. But it also resets the cooldown of all of their skills. Ooh, that is so incredibly powerful. So if you have somebody who you want to be reset on the team with Fina, you put them in the lead position. So when I run her in Hydra and with a Trunda, for example, on the same team, and I want her to reset Trunda, she's going to go in the lead position there, okay? A3, increase attack, increase crit rate, increase crit damage. Her best build is 9-piece protection because she dishes out so many buffs. You can get huge, huge damage bonuses, right? So you get all those buffs with an extra turn on a 3-turn cooldown. That helps cycle all of her moves. She's just insanely good, right? You can lead off with this ability, increase attack, and the 2 buffs on all allies with the protection, and then go right into this ability on the A2 with the extra turn. Before placing buffs, cleanses all allies. And then with 3, buffs placed by this skill cannot be removed, aka the built-in protection anyway there. But we still want the damage escalation though. Whenever a buff is placed on an ally, fills their turn meter by 3%. Allies deal 25% more damage when attacking out of their active turn. And then whenever a buff is removed, stolen from an ally, or when it expires, it fills their turn meter by 10%. Allies will ignore 5% of the target's defense for each buff on them. This specifically can get so much damage because she's dishing out 6 buffs. 6 buffs. So you're getting ignore defense by 30% when you dish out these buffs on your nuker. Insanity. Very good. Wallmaster Authorian, enemy max HP champion, who doesn't get enough love. He has an AoE on his A1, an AoE on his A2, and then he's got the extra turn mechanic where he self-buffs himself, okay? Self-buff himself. A little redundant there, Ash. Increases champion's max HP by 20% for each enemy killed or Hydra head decapitated. You can tell he was made to be a Hydra champion because of the passive, right? He's very good in Hydra. I use him on one of my Hydra teams. I have most mythicals in the game, and I still use my man Wallmaster Authorian because he also brings an essential debuff. Kind of 2, right? Block buffs and decrease attack on a 3-turn cooldown with the enemy max HP. With the extra turns, he can cycle his skills very quickly. Can just throw him in lethal or savage. He's going to be amazing for you. Shiramani, not my favorite champion. An AoE freeze on a 4-turn cooldown. Same thing as Pixelil. She does have a little bit of turn meter fill there. And then she has a single target heal and other allies a 20% of their max HP heal and a continuous heal on the A2. So not the worst ability, but not the best. She has a freeze on her A1. I think she's a niche progression champion. If you need a control champion with some healing, go for it. I do like that she has a triple hitter. I'll tell you, I use her against a very tricky Fire Knight in Cintranos and Soulcross. And I don't know if I'd be able to beat him without her, right? Because of that A1. It has the freeze. Actually a really good Fire Knight option for you. But outside of Fire Knight and just general progression, I think that she's been power crept. She's an original champion in the game, one of the OGs. Lana Thero. Kind of an old school fusion. I like Lonothero a lot. He's got an AoE shield 3 turns, and then he has an ally attack on his A3, right? He's a champion that if you pull him, you're going to max him. He might not be an immediate max, drop everything and go out and invest, but man, this dude is an ally attacker, and ally attackers are pretty much all good, right? All ally attackers who all allies are joining in are going to be in high demand in this game, right? There's not that many of them that everybody joins in. He's one of them. He's going to be worth it. Exceptionally good in Fire Knight again. Basilius Ronus. He's a very strange champion. Now, strange in terms of, like, he's tough to grade. No aura, no passive. He definitely feels old school because he is old school. He has triple puncture. His A2 ability is going to ignore 50% targets defense. That allows you with Helm Smasher and Savage or Lethal Gear to ignore 100% defense on this ability. It can hit very hard. It also ignores increased defense, shield, block damage. Block damage is very powerful right now in the game, so he can even be a nice niche pick in the arena. He is niche, but you know, block damage against a Nice, for example, very good against Nice because he can, as a force affinity, he can bleed right through him. An AoE stun on a 4-turn cooldown. Again, it's not the best ability in the world, but it's pretty dang good. AoE 100% stun is solid. He got buffed quite a bit, right? And one of the buffs was just making this an AoE at 100% stun. So overall, good for control and good for damage in niche situations. Daliana, another freebie. She's nice and tanky. I love that. She has an AoE on her A1 with the leech. She has an AoE decreased resistance as well on her A2. It's a 3-turn cooldown. She has a block buffs with a debuff spread, provide they're under the decreased resistance. Very good for Hydra. An AoE block buffs on her A3. Excuse me. If they're under a block buffs. The block buffs is on the A3. The one thing I don't like about Daliana is she's not a bad champion. A couple strong AoEs, like decently strong, I should say. She's an HP-based champion, so she's doing some nice damage. Think more Vizix and less like, you know, I don't know, Georgid, right? And AoE block buffs for 2 turns. What I'd recommend is, if you're going to use her in Hydra, I'd really try to pair her with a buff or a debuff extender as well, because you really want that block buffs on a 2-turn cooldown. She has it on a 3. She's very solid, but for Hydra, where she really does shine, I like to run her in a curse set to try to land the leech, as well as the hex, as well as the block buffs and some damage, right? Outside of that, she's kind of like a C plus B minus tier support in my opinion. The Incarnate is Arbiter's companion champion. She was a previous fusion, and let me tell you, I was really disappointed in the Incarnate, unfortunately. An AoE, remove shield, okay. An ally protection and a strengthen, not a bad ability to be fair here, but there's a lot of champions with this sort of move in the game. I will say this, if I was to pull the Incarnate early on, right at the same time I'm unlocking Arbiter, I might be compelled to build them together. They're kind of fun when played together, but she's not a good champion. She's very, to me, she feels very epic-like. Even though, to be fair, this is a legendary ability. You don't see the big version of strength and ally protection on a 3-turn from epics, but the rest of her kit is kind of meh. Now, when she's killed, she'll reset the cooldown of Arbiter's revival, which is nice. She also has other Arbiter's synergy, right? This champion receives 20% of the damage of any ally of any ally arbiters. Oh, it's weird how they how they wrote that in, right? If Arbiter is going to get killed, it puts an unkillable on them. It's a 4-turn cooldown. She's not worth the perks that you get by having Arbiter on the team with her, in my opinion. So I don't think she's worth upgrading, honestly. Lyssandra's very good still to this day. She's got a great speed aura. The Energize ability is just best in class amongst these type of abilities. We see them all over the place. Lazarius has one. Shuzen has one. Heck, the Diabolus, the rare farmable champion, has one, right? It's an increased speed with a turn meter increased by 30 and a turn meter decreased by 30. Honestly, this is the best. I'm not saying she's better than all those champions. I would take Shuzen, for example, ahead of her because of the rest of her kit. But this Energize ability is best in class, because when we see 30% turn meter fill or turn meter depletion on the same move, that is incredibly good. That is so much of a game changer. I use her still as my lead in like Dark Fae to go in there and reduce my mirrored version champions turn meter and increase my own. With the increased speed on top of that, so powerful, speed in all battles as well. She also has a full turn meter depletion on her A2 on a 3-turn cooldown. Good for situations like Dark Fae again, as well as the ice, or excuse me, the Fire Knight once you get his shield down in normal mode. Royal Huntsman. Royal Huntsman's an interesting fella. He has 100% ignore defense ability. There's only like 4 or 5 of them in the entire game. We're thinking like Mortu Macabre, the Malice ability of Valkanen, the secret skill. Often there's secret skill abilities, right? Blood Gorged has one as well. So there's not that many. Royal Huntsman is one of them. So this just absolutely deletes. It's a delete button ability. Granted, it's a single target. It's on a 5-turn cooldown. So even though he's cool, he has an AoE decreased defense too. Even though he's a cool champion, I mean, this is what Royal Huntsman is like what Alexander the Sharpshooter could be, right? If he dealt a hell of a lot more damage, that's what if his Born to Kill ability actually slayed, right? Because he has the AoE decreased defense as well. I think Royal Huntsman is a really fun damage dealer, a really fun champion to have. Good to be like your decreased defense champion, but I can't lie to you guys. I also think that he's been power crept a bit over the years. He's fun in the arena, but really, outside of progression in the arena as a decreased defense champion and faction wars, I'm not going to say like almost any champion, legendary, who's like decent, you can use in faction wars and potion keeps in minnow. So I'm not going to give every single champion a shout out like, oh, they're solid in minnow, maybe with one exception that we'll get to later. Yanuka. Yanuka's solid. She's farmable. She's in the clan shop. You can get her fragments. So really solid champion. She has a leech on her A1, but it can be an AoE, right? It can be an AoE if she's under a veil. The cool thing is she brings her own perfect veil and an extra turn. So you're always going to lead in with the A2. She'll be under the perfect veil. Then you can go in with an AoE ×2 on the A1, but you're better off going with Elven Judgment, a hard-hitting AoE nuke. She's a Spirit Affinity nuker who can really pack a punch, but she's not much beyond that. So I will say one thing, though. Whenever I use Yanuka, I'm always like, wow, that's a lot of damage. Whenever I sub her in any situation. That being said, she's not an arena champion, unless you're just in progression mode. But waves, whew, she's really good. She can also be decently effective, I should say, in Hydra, just because of all those AoEs. And as long as you're running her with another, I try to run her with another Perfect Veil champion. Anyway, Tatura Rhymehide. Really solid Christmas fusion about 3 or 4 years ago. Really interesting design on this champion as well. Super, super solid champ. Again, very good Hydra champion too. Decreased accuracy, block debuffs, increased defense on all allies, 2 turns, 3-turn duration. It's like the staple ability, right? You get 2 really important buffs, 2-turn duration, 3-turn cooldown. You get a perfect veil on a 4-turn cooldown, which is the norm in this game. There's only a few champions that have it on a 3. And then you get a shield. The cool thing is this actually hits pretty hard too, defense-based damage here, which is nice. And then when attacked, reflects 30% of the damage this champion receives back to the attacker. I will say though, Tatura Rhymehide doesn't receive a ton of damage because he's a big tanky defense-based beast, So you're not getting a lot of damage out of that reflect. However, chance of placing the freeze on the attacker can be very fun in wave content or just to throw a curveball at your opponent in the arena. Highkeeper Prism is a reviver. 4-turn revive, really good revive. 75% turn meter, 75% HP, increased attack, and a perfect veil. Keep in mind, perfect veil, not only are the perfect veiled ally going to be untargetable, but also receive a 15% AoE damage mitigation bonus as well, right? On the A1, we get a stun, right? Transfers all debuffs from the ally with the most debuffs to the target. I have to say, this is a very, very good A1 ability. 50% stun on each hit. It's really good. And then just like cleansing, not just cleansing, transferring, right? Won't transfer CC debuffs. Keep that in mind. This A2 is really cool. attack an enemy, remove their buffs before attacking, which is brilliant because the ally with the highest crit damage is going to join in the attack. They're not just going to join in, though. They're also going to ignore 35% of the target's defense, and that's their biggest nuker, highest crit damage. And then if the target's killed, you get an instant turn on the ally. What a cool ability there, right? So at the start, this is a really cool passive too, guys. At the start of the champion's turn, 40% chance to remove block debuffs from each enemy and replace them with block buffs. That's nasty. This happens every turn. Also has a 40% chance to remove any buffs positively affecting stats and changing them to the mirrored version of the equivalent. Increase attack, decrease attack, continuous heal, strengthen, heal reduction, weaken. This is a really nasty little move here, okay? I'm not 100% sure if Sniper works on this, right? It could be maybe 45% chance with Sniper. I don't know. I really don't know. Defense in all battles by 30% on the Aura too. Not like an S-tier reviver, but really unique one and cool one. Lysanthier, Beast Bane. I was not a huge fan of this champion. An AoE ×2 with a decreased speed and a weaken. If the target's under a hex, place these debuffs before attacking. Not bad, 3-turn cooldown. Really solid for Hydra. However, I was disappointed in the damage of Lysanthier Beastbane, right? Has a 2-time hitter on the A2, excuse me. Now, as you can see, I want to just show you here. I didn't go for the fusion, so this is the only legendary that I don't have out of High Elves. I'm going to point out in this series champions that I don't have because I don't like to talk definitively about champions that I actually haven't used. This is the only one out of every champion that we talk about today that I have not extensively play tested. But I was not impressed from everything that I saw on all the playtesting on this champion. But if you guys went for the fusion and you have them, let me know if you disagree in the comments below. I'll try to pin a comment that gives a more first-hand take on this champion. Ignores life barrier and ally protection. Again, built for Hydra, but for me, the damage mitigated the power of the weaken and the decreased speed. But if you need those buffs in Hydra, I suppose he'd be a good option. Ethos. Ethos is a good damage dealer. AoE, AoE. They actually buffed him and given him the big version of Weaken. It was the weak version for like 4 years, right? One of the old school original Void champions, in the game. Both his AoEs hit very hard, and then he has an extra turn chance on his A1. I will say this, though. I think they should buff Ethos again. I was actually shocked in Faction Wars Hard Mode. He was in really good gear on my team, right? And an Epic that we're going to talk about in just a few moments was out damaging him. And I was like, what is going on here? Because Ethos always impressed me with his nukage. But I kind of paused for a moment. I'm like, wait a sec. Maybe I'm behind the times here on Ethos, you know? I would like to see him do a little bit more for a Void Legendary, frankly. He used to be one of like the most sought after nukers in the entire game. Like when you got Ethos, you were like, oh yeah, game over. I won, you know? What I would love to see on him is Extinguish Life. This attack is always critical, is not very impactful. I mean, my man here is Void anyway, and we have to build him with 100% crit rate anyway, you know? I would like to see this Extinguish Life ignore defense or remove buffs. That would be my buff idea on him. He's very squishy, so I think the Ethos honestly has been crept a little bit. Hate to say it, Bellinor got a big buff. Has a hard-hitting overkill ability. I want to say it's like a 6 multiplier on this, I want to say. It's nice, right? It has surplus damage as well. Surplus, it's hard to pull off for big numbers. He's a Xavia as well, a companion champion. She's a Dark Elf who has very similar kit. Different but similar to Eleanor in that she's a poison applier and also a combustor. But you don't really see them run together that often. Some of the best Ice Golem teams have both of them on it. Bellinor is, in my opinion, I hate to say it because he's Void, right? Which is, it's really nice to have a Void decreased defense, AoE weaken, 3-turn cooldown champion. Doesn't even need to get booked at all to have a 3-turn cooldown either. But he's probably my least favorite. I'm comparing him to Yenseska Grailbraid, Lydia, Death Siren, and Venus, the other decreased defense Void, weakened Void champions. And he's my least favorite. He just doesn't do anything beyond the decreased defense and weaken. However, I will say his buff was great. This used to be single target on the A2. He can be a competent damage dealer. There's no doubt about that. You can pair him with Xavier, especially in Ice Golem hard, and you can have some really impressive runs with them together. And I actually do run Bellinor on one of my main Hydra clan boss teams. So I'm talking smack about the guy, but I run him because of Fina, right? I want to take advantage of the extra bonus. But he's not an awful champion. He's just not, you know, he's very squishy, you know, 15k on the HP. He's just solid, you know, for a decreased defense weakened champion. It's nice that he's void, you know, don't have to worry about weak hits and stuff like that. Arbiter, she's still one of the best speed leads in the game. She is the quintessential champion. I think she's the face of Teleria, right? The face of Raid Shadow Legends, isn't she? And she's deserving of it. She still has that great 30% turn meter boost. She has that heal. She's great in Hydra. She's great in basically anywhere. She's a reviver with an extra turn if she revives. You can take that extra turn. You can turn meter boost and you can heal, right? It's a really nice 1-2 punch. And of course, she's amazing in the arena as a speed lead, as we mentioned with that aura. She has that AoE, decreased duration of enemy buffs, which is also nice. You can build her with a little accuracy, avoid polymorph, and still be effective inside the arena, even with her A2 ability. Notable, she has the big version of Weaken on the A1 at a very dependable 50% land rate because it happens on each hit. So she brings a ton to the table, and she's still an incredible champion even after all these years. She's still somebody that, you know, you're going to get excited when you get her from the Arbiter missions. Supreme Elhain, I think she's my... Supreme Galath, I'm sure everybody would say, is the best Supreme, and it's hard to argue with that. But Supreme Elhain has the #1 position in my heart because, man, she smacks. She really hits hard. I mean, she was out damaging Ethos easily when I was running them together as well. She wasn't the one I was referring to, but man, damage increased by 10% for each debuff on each target. So if you can load up a few debuffs, she just, I mean, this Let None Live literally does just that, right? Crack Shot hits really hard as well. Extra turn if you kill an enemy. That being said, I mean, I just kind of feel like damage dealers in this game are kind of like a dime a dozen, you know? She's a void damage dealer who hits really hard. It's cool, but it's hard to get like super excited about her at the same time just because, again, I just feel like there's so many damage dealers out there, but she's definitely one of the more competent ones. All right, Royal Guard. We're on to the epics, guys. Royal Guard time. So Royal Guard is the quintessential enemy max HP AoE champion in the game, right? He's got takedown. It's a really strong move still to this day. Now, of course, Plarium went in there and they nerfed enemy max HP abilities, so the usefulness is somewhat mitigated compared to where it was, you know, back in the day, but still, he can smack with this ability. He brings a decreased defense on the A1 and some great turn meter control. He's on some of the better Fire Knight teams on this because of this A3 on Fire Knight normal, right? So anyway, really solid champion still going to be worth your, you know, worth upgrading for sure on Royal Guard. Tyrell. I'm going to try to remember to timestamp this video on rarities too. Tyrell. He used to be the most wanted champion out there in the game, exceptionally good in Demon Lord Clan Boss because of that aura, defense in all battles, the decreased attack on the A1, and the decreased defense on the A2. He also has a good stun, 2-turn stun on the A3, decreased turn meter, it's a good control ability. But unfortunately, because of this 4-turn cooldown, my man went from, you know, first to not worst, but who wants an AoE decreased defense on a 4-turn cooldown nowadays? That being said, he is useful. The rest of his kit is good enough that, especially in wave content, you can always A1 cycle to get this fresh on the next wave anyway, right? So he's worth your resources. He's just, you know, a shadow of what he used to be. Skaramis. Oh, man. Skaramis is one of my favorite champions added in the last few years. I think he's an S tier, well, maybe A+. I don't want to throw around S so liberally, but man, an AoE provoke on a 3-turn cooldown, counterattack, continuous heal on himself. He's throwing out so many provokes that he needs healing, and he brings his own healing, right? He also brings counterattack where he can deplete turn meter, land stuns, and then this AoE, he's sitting in there and he's decreasing the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn, and he's placing a decreased attack while he's there. And then he fills a turn meter for each buff that has this duration decrease. So if there's like, you know, whatever, 2 buffs on 5 enemies, you get a full turn meter, 100% turn meter, right? It's insane. It really is. Thus getting back to the provoke more often. Just such a beautiful kit. I love that champion. Andryia. AoE decrease attack, and then a counter attack by enemies under decrease attack. She does have a provoke, but man, compare that to like a Skoramis kit. I don't like Andryia that much. I would not recommend investing in her unless you're really, maybe take her to level 50 for an AoE decrease attack. She is kind of tanky, which is nice, but she's not worth it. Pixelil, I'm not a huge fan. His A3 is trash. His A1 is trash. I don't care about every time I say his A1 is trash, someone's like, yeah, but for Sand Devil Ash, pretty good. But I'm like, dude, for Sand Devil, like, just give me Muckstalker. Give me anybody. 50% sleep is not gonna, it doesn't do it for me. Increased defense and a heal is really solid, but that's about it. You know, when I think of Pixelil, I just think of Oak Skinned. That's all I think of. So you could build them to level 50, potentially hold on to them, keep a copy. You might need this ability someday for heals and support on your team, but that's about it. I wouldn't use them outside of really restrictive content. Lithia, she has an AoE decreased speed. It's on a 4-turn cooldown, but it's still a nice debuff to have. She also has a triple freeze on her A2 ability. Each hit has a 25% chance. Then she has poison on her A1. I think it's a weird blend of abilities here, honestly. Decrease speed on a 4-turn, freeze at a small percentage, and a poison at a small percentage on her A1. Just one poison. To me, she's not that good. Elysinia, I think. HP-based champion, she's pretty tanky, which is nice. She has buff steal on the A1, which is solid. She has AoE before attacking, removing block debuffs. And then she has a chance of placing, 75% chance, block buffs. It's a cool ability, but it's pretty niche. And then a shield on all allies with a strength and weak version. Not doing it for me. She's not that awful, but she has some heal as well when a shield breaks. So it has to be a shield placed by this ability, but it's a 4-turn cooldown. I don't know. It's not enough for me. Not enough. Ambassador Lethalin. Now, here's a champion we can get a little bit more excited about. He's not a great champion, but he's very unique. So you ought to know about him, and I would definitely keep a copy of him. He has an AoE on this A1, so he can be very useful in stun set situations, right? He has a taunt and a reflect damage on all allies. Now, the cool thing about him, though, is taunt is on anybody you want. Now, every other champion, might be one other champion in the game that can place taunt on somebody else, right? It's a very unique ability. Decrease the duration of 2 random debuffs on all allies by 1 turn. It's not bad. Then it heals all allies. Heals extra based on debuffs removed. It's a handy little skill, but it's not a game changer. So he's a weird champion. AoE, okay. And then the remove or decrease duration of 2 buffs, taunt on an ally. Is not awful, but he's so niche, but he's kind of cool. He looks cool, you know? He's not a must-max for me, but worth knowing about. Neldor Rhineblade. Man, my man is a Fire Knight specialist. He's actually good in other areas too, but especially Fire Knight. 40% chance, Fire Knight hard, that is, which is obviously the most difficult dungeon out there, right? On his A2, a quad hitter. Great at getting that Fire Knight shield down, right? Moreover, he brings decreased attack, decreased accuracy. This is on a 3-turn cooldown. And then he has an AoE ×2 hitter, decreased speed. Each hit 75% chance. Now that is an ability there. It is a 4-turn cooldown, but it's a nice ability to have. Whenever an ally places a freeze, this champion has a 30% chance to attack the target with his default skill. He's going to join in. Neldor is a really cool champion. He can deal a decent amount of damage too. He brings 2 solid debuffs, one especially with a decreased attack. For me, he's mainly Fire Knight, but he can be good in some situations like against the Red Boss and Faction Wars and stuff like that as well. Vergis, really solid support champion. He has a reflect damage on a random ally on his A1. Okay. He got a big buff around 3 or 4 years ago that really was a game changer back in the day when they actually used to buff epic champions, right? Continuous heal, increased speed, reflect damage on one ally for 3 turns on a 3-turn cooldown. It's not a bad ability there, even though it is only one ally. The cool thing is ally protection on all allies with an increased defense on himself. It's a great ally protection ability here, and also support whoever needs it the most, right? Increased speed, continuous heal, reflect damage. It's nice to put on your kind of weaker champions, right? Your nukers. Not only will they get the ally protection, but they're going to get heals, they'll go faster, and the reflect damage, they're going to be taking more damage because they're squishier anyway, right? So it could be more effective there. Good. He can solo in like destroy gear. He can solo the Scarab King. Now, it gets a little trickier at higher levels of hard, but man, if you're struggling against Scarab King, he can be an option for you there too. Marksman, not my favorite. I would stay away. He has a fill determinant of all allies by 20%, which is nice. That's about all there is in his kit, right? His A3 hits all right, you know? Jingle Hunter. He's not a awful champion, but he's not great either. He has 100% freeze, and he has an AoE decreased turn meter by 20% if the attack is critical. It's not awful, but I would not invest in Jingle Hunter, right? He has a weird speed or a battle. However, I did use him in, I think I had to use him for, no, not for freeze. I forgot. I've used him in a couple niche situations, but he's not a guy you're going to run out to max, in my opinion. Battle Sage isn't worth investing in unless you're really looking for a cleanser. She has a solid cleanse. Increase attack with a full cleanse on 3-turn cooldown. Outside of that, though, revive on death on a target ally. She does have an AoE on the A1, which is notable. Speed in all battles. I love the aura, but the rest of her kit is kind of meh, you know? Not awful, but only if you need it type champion. Exemplar. She has a triple weaken. She hits pretty hard. That's cool, but I don't know, 3-time at random weaken, good for bosses, bad for other situations, and a single target freeze and a block active skills. Again, good to like neutralize a minion, but I would stay away. I would not invest in her, especially because she's so slow and just feels very squishy, feels very outdated. Andryia, the mini Necrit. She looks pretty cool. I love her armor. She's got like kind of that Vergis collar or whatever thing going on too. I love the aesthetic. Anyway, she has a decreased crit damage, whatever. She has a 2-turn stun. If the target has no buffs, she can neutralize somebody for 2 turns. That's powerful in the arena. She has an AoE decreased duration of all enemy buffs by 2 turns. Again, this is polymorph proof. So like, to me, it's not bad as an arena kind of opener, right? Go in there, remove their buffs, have a chance of removing Stone Skin. Increased duration of increased defense on allies is such a weird thing to have on a champion that doesn't bring increased defense. But the cool thing about her is this Heartstrong passive. At the start of each turn, plays an ally protection for 2 turns on the ally with the lowest max HP. Also plays a strengthen and increased defense. I'm going to eat my words. She does bring increased defense on this champion for 2 turns. So when she uses her A3, this is at the start, right? At the start, yeah. So when she first goes, she'll have a 2-turn increased defense. You can open up and then keep it a 2-turn increased defense, which is handy because you want her to have increased defense because of the ally protection as well. So it's nice to protect your nuker with Andryia, right? I would build her in Stone Skin and try her in the arena. That way, you know, you get to the first turn, try to build her as fast as you can. It's tricky, though, because you have to build her with accuracy, too, right? I don't know. She's a really cool champion, but honestly, because you want her super tanky, fairly fast, and you need a lot of accuracy, I think she's a tough build. Ethan the Golden. Listen, I'm going to make a whole video. There's only like 3 of you watching, 45 minutes in, right? Our secret. I'm making a whole video on this dude because this is the dude that outdamaged Ethos. And what I did was I underestimated Ethan the Golden for a long time. This guy can smack. Man, not only that, he has an AoE. It's a 4-turn cooldown, but an AoE 100% of placing block active skills. I mean, what a great lockout champion. What a great lockout champion. He brings his own increased crit damage, increased accuracy with the extra turn, which you can also use to cycle back to that A2 more often. Ignores 10% of defense when attacking support, defense, and HP champions. Really solid. I mean, he is a great, probably one of the best wave killers and controllers out of any epic. That being said, he's just a wave killer and controller. You know, it's not like you're going to be, he doesn't bring really anything at all against bosses, you know, but he's worth knowing about, man. He impressed the hell out of me. Golly. Lightward Sandra, she's kind of new, well, very new at the time of this recording. She was the last fusion. Has a 50% chance of stealing a random buff. If the attack is critical, 100% chance on her A1. That's solid. 2-time hitter, stealing turn meter. Now she's stealing turn meter on the A2. And then the AoE, increased accuracy, increased crit rate on herself, increased duration of all buffs on this champion. If the attack is critical, what a selfish move. Honestly, I'm not blown away by her. But I hear she can do some decent damage, but I haven't playtested her enough. But I don't think she's worth building, frankly. Kind of a disappointing, I would say, fusion epic. Unlike the fusion epic that we have right now, who I'm actually a big fan of, even though his reviews in game, which you can't really trust, kind of suck. Apothecary is still one of the best rares in the game. Increased speed, big version, and a turn meter fill on that A3. A 2-turn heal. It's single target, but it's a 2-turn that can be critical. There's only like 3 heals in the game that can be critical. He's got one of them. And a triple hitter, which makes him great against Fire Knight. Defense in dungeons by 21%. Great aura, especially for a rare. Man, he's just a great progression champion. And great for restrictive content in the end game. If you pull him, he's 100% worth building. You'll use him. If you can't use him now, you'll use him eventually. Great turn meter booster, too, in the early game for the arena. Just put your best speed gear on him. He'll help you out in the arena, and you don't even have to change the build to use him in Fire Knight and other dungeon situations. Avenger. Avenger has a decreased defense on her A1, 2-time, inflicting a critical hit, and trash champion. Elhain. I like Elhain a lot, you know, especially when you get into like those restrictive secret rooms. You know, good in a stun set, right? Good for damage dealer, good for stun set, good for like early game campaign farmer, but honestly, you can get better, you know? So she's a starting champion. You guys are familiar with Elhain. Adjudicator, not worth your time, decreased turn meter, whatever, right? Eris, one of the better clan boss champions in the game. I think she's campaign farmable, I'm pretty sure. She can cleanse the Demon Lord stun and put increased speed on all allies. She has a cool passive 2, counterattacks the attacker when an ally is attacked. Some people build her in a toxic set because she's counterattacking all over the place. So you just got to be careful. You don't want to fill up the 10 debuffs on the Demon Lord, but you can put her in a toxic and dish out some extra damage vis-a-vis the poisons as well. I have my Eris in a shield set because I run her with Wixwell on my main clan boss team. Definitely worth holding on to. Magister is the the bootleg version of Apothecary. He's not that good. Revive on death, got a little heal reduction, weak version, not a fan. Pass. Fencer. She does have a stun and steal turn meter, or steal turn meter, and then she has an AoE decreased defense. It's the weak version. I'll say this about Fencer, guys. I honestly forgot what she did until I just clicked on her. It's been a while. But with the Nature's Bounty blessing, it's that blessing that can upgrade. I'll just go to it, right? Fencer. I want to remember where I left off here. Where am I going? What am I doing? Let me just go to, I know I have it on Bellower, so let me just go. But you should, I mean, you probably already know about this blessing, but if you don't, you got to know about it, right? It basically has a chance up to 60% to turn a weak version of a buff into the, or a debuff, excuse me, into the strong version of the debuff, right? So going back to Fencer, there's not that, there's only one AoE decreased defense 100% rare out there in the game. In War Maiden, that's it, still to this day. On a 3-turn cooldown, that is, right? So she has it on a 3-turn cooldown. It's the weak version. But hey, if you're looking for a decreased defense champion, she's super squishy. It's conditional. I wouldn't say go out and max her at all, but, you know, she could be a 3-turn cooldown AoE decreased defense champion for you. Hyria, she has a poison on each hit. It is the big version, albeit a 50% chance, 55 with sniper. She's a decent poisoner. She has an ally attack as well. Honestly, she's not that bad. Yeah, not that bad. Poisons and an ally attack. Now, you guys might scoff at 2 random allies joining in, but she's joining in as well. She's not bringing much, but she is joining in. And ally attack is powerful inherently in this game, right? So she's not great, not a must max, but Worth knowing about, I guess, right? AoE decreased speed. Again, Nature's Bounty on Prosecutor, right? Triple hitter, increased accuracy on herself, heal reduction. A little bit too niche for me to recommend here. Medicus, AoE decreased speed. Again, I mean, we're singing the same song here, aren't we? An AoE, 70% chance decreased speed, but with Nature's Bounty, it could be a big version. She has an increased speed in all allies and an increased defense. Also an increased speed on herself. I would stay away from Medicus. Interceptor. She has a sleep and a weaken, or if it does not place, pass. Interceptor, not worth your time. Relic Retender, though, she's got the cleanse and the heal and the revive and the decrease attack. It is the weak version of decrease attack. Takes a lot of books, but whatever. She has, by far and away, by a mile, the best rare cleanse in the game. And she's also one of like 7 rare revivers, give or take, right? So she's absolutely worth holding on to. She's absolutely worth building when you need her, because you're going to need her at some point. To me, she's still a top 10 rare champion in the game. Selenia Nightcloak, arguably the best burner out of any rare out there. That being said, rares generally aren't that great in terms of burners, right? She's an AoE increased duration of burns, and then she has a 3-time hitter. Each hit has a 75% chance of placing a burn for 2 turns. Now, she's a good burn option against, like, Ice Golem, for example, right? All this being said, though, she has a turn meter fill each time a burn is activated as well. All that being said, I think you're probably going to be able to do better in fairly short amount of time than Selenia Nightcloak. I maxed her. I didn't hate her, but I didn't love her, I didn't love her. Okay, now we're going to go into the uncommon. There's only 3, so we'll just go through them. Aristocrat. She has a heal reduction and a weaken. Pass. Jägermeister. We have a decreased speed and a freeze. Nope. And then we have Elfgard. Elfgard has a decreased attack and a decreased enemy's turn meter by 50% on a 2-turn cooldown. Way back in the day, people used to cheese with Elfgard. Having the 50% turn meter on 2-turn cooldown was pretty cool, but nowadays, none of these uncommons are worth touching. Well, there it is, guys. That's a review of every single champion, kind of an in-depth review, almost an hour here, of every high elf. I hope you guys found it helpful. If you have any feedback on what I can give you extra in terms of things that you can use in these videos, these deep dives in every faction, I would love to hear it from you guys. Other than that, have a great weekend or week whenever you're watching this video. Much love, and as always, take care, guys.